The USS Blackstar moved through space like a ghost. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the stars through the main screen. His ship was unlike any other vessel in the human fleet. The Blackstar could turn invisible with its quantum cloak technology. It carried weapons that could destroy entire enemy fleets. Most importantly, it had a crew that never gave up. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant from her station. She was the ship's tactical officer, and one of the best in the fleet. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she studied the readings. "There are energy signatures near the Kepler 4 and 4-2 system. They don't match anything in our database." Morrison walked over to her station. The readings on her screen showed patterns he had never seen before. "How far out are we from that system?" "About 6 hours at current speed, sir," replied Navigator Tony Garcia. He was young but had excellent instincts for finding safe routes through dangerous space. "Take us there, but keep us cloaked," Morrison ordered. "I want to see what made those energy patterns without being seen ourselves." The USS Blackstar changed course toward the Kepler 442 system. The ship's quantum cloak kept them hidden from any sensors. Chief Engineer Bobby Williams monitored the cloak from his station, below decks. The technology was still new and sometimes had problems, but Williams knew every circuit and wire in the system. 6 hours later, they arrived at the edge of the system. What they found made everyone on the bridge go silent. The colony of New Denver was gone, not destroyed by natural disaster or accident, but systematically wiped out. 15,000 people had lived there just days ago. Now there was nothing but burning ruins. "My God," whispered communications specialist Danny Clark. He had friends who lived on New Denver. They had sent him messages just last week about their new lives on the colony world. Morrison's jaw tightened. He had seen battles before, but this was different. This was murder on a massive scale. "Lisa, scan the area for survivors. Danny, try to pick up any distress signals or emergency beacons." "Sir, I'm not finding any life signs," Grant reported after several minutes. "Whatever did this was very thorough. They killed everyone." Amy Rodriguez, the ship's intelligence officer, was studying the weapon patterns left behind. She was quiet and methodical, the kind of person who noticed details others missed. "Captain, these weapon signatures are not from any human technology. They're also not from any known alien species in our files." "Unknown aliens?" Morrison asked. "Are you sure?" "Yes, sir. The energy patterns show they use a different type of plasma technology. It's actually less advanced than our weapons, but they used it to target civilian areas specifically. This wasn't a battle. It was an execution." Dr. Sam Carter, the ship's medical officer, spoke up from her station where she was reviewing the colony's final medical reports. "Sir, the colonists sent their last transmission 4 days ago. They reported seeing strange ships in their system, but they didn't seem worried. They thought it might be a first contact situation." Morrison felt sick. The colonists had probably tried to welcome these aliens. Instead, they had been slaughtered for their kindness. "Bobby, get down here. I want you to analyze these weapon signatures." Chief Engineer Williams arrived on the bridge a few minutes later. He was a big man with rough hands from years of working on engines and weapons systems. He studied Rodriguez's data carefully before speaking. "Captain, I've seen something like this before. Not exactly the same, but similar. There are stories about a species called the Vorth Collective. They're supposed to be militaristic and view other species as inferior." "Supposed to be?" Morrison asked. "Well, sir, no one who has met them has ever returned to tell about it, but we've found the remains of several alien civilizations that were wiped out by weapons like these. Intelligence thinks the Vorth consider other species to be pests that need to be eliminated." Rodriguez nodded. "I've been analyzing the attack patterns. This wasn't random destruction. They targeted the school first, then the hospital, then the residential areas. They wanted to cause maximum suffering. This was meant to send a message." "What kind of message?" asked Grant. "That humans are next," Morrison said quietly. Everyone on the bridge understood what that meant. If the Vorth had found human space, they wouldn't stop with one colony. Danny Clark looked up from his communications station. Sir, I'm picking up faint transmissions. They're encrypted, but I think I can break the code. He worked for several minutes while the rest of the crew waited. Finally, he looked up with a pale face. Sir, they're talking about this attack. They call it a test of human defenses. They want to see how quickly we respond and how strong our military is. They're still out there? Morrison asked. Yes, sir. The transmissions are coming from somewhere beyond the outer planets of this system. They're watching to see if we send rescue ships or military vessels. Morrison looked around at his crew. These were good people who had signed up to explore space and protect human colonies. Now they were the only ones who knew that humanity was facing a threat that could destroy their entire species. Sir, what are your orders? Asked Grant. Morrison thought carefully. Standard procedure would be to return to Earth immediately and report what they had found. Earth's military would then send a large fleet to hunt for the aliens. But that would take weeks, maybe months. In that time, the Vorth could attack dozens more colonies. The USS Blackstar was alone out here, but it was also humanity's most advanced warship. Its quantum cloak meant they could track the aliens without being detected. Its weapons could destroy enemy ships that had no idea humans possessed such technology. We're going after them, Morrison decided. We're going to follow those signals and find out where these Vorth are going next. If they think humans are easy targets, they're about to learn otherwise. Sir, we're just one ship, Garcia pointed out. Morrison smiled grimly. Yes, but we're the right ship. The Vorth have no idea what human technology can do. They think they're hunting defenseless prey. Instead, they're about to find out that humans are the predators in this galaxy. The USS Blackstar turned away from the destroyed colony and began following the alien signals deeper into unknown space. Behind them, the ruins of New Denver served as a reminder of what happened to those who underestimated humanity's enemies. Ahead of them lay a war that would determine whether humans would survive or join the other extinct species the Vorth had wiped out. None of the crew knew if they would ever see Earth again. But they all knew that someone had to stand between the Vorth and the rest of humanity. The USS Blackstar and its crew were ready to be that shield, no matter what the cost. The USS Blackstar had been following the alien signals for 3 days. Captain Jake Morrison had barely slept during that time. He knew that somewhere ahead of them, the Vorth fleet was planning their next attack on innocent humans. Captain, I've got something, said communications specialist Danny Clark. His voice was tight with worry. I've broken more of their encrypted messages. They're talking about their next target. Morrison walked over to Clark's station. The young man had been working non-stop to decode the alien transmissions. What did you find? They're planning to attack New Pittsburgh, sir. It's an industrial colony with 2 million people. They want to hit it in less than 18 hours. The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew about New Pittsburgh. It was one of humanity's most important manufacturing centers. Families lived there, children went to school there, and people worked hard to build a better life. How far are we from New Pittsburgh? Morrison asked navigator Tony Garcia. Garcia checked his charts quickly. At maximum speed, we're about 20 hours away, sir. We can't get there before the aliens attack. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant looked up from her tactical station. Sir, I'm reading 57 enemy ships on long-range sensors. They're moving in formation toward New Pittsburgh. We're just one ship against their entire fleet. Morrison stared at the tactical display. The odds were impossible. Standard military doctrine said they should retreat and warn Earth. But by the time Earth's fleet arrived, 2 million people would be dead. Sir, said intelligence officer Amy Rodriguez, I've been studying their formation. They're flying in a tight group with their flagship in the center. Their formation is designed for attacking planets, not for fighting other ships. They're not expecting any resistance. Morrison thought about the destroyed colony they had found. He remembered the burned homes and the silence where children should have been playing. The Vorth thought humans were weak prey that wouldn't fight back. They're wrong, Morrison said quietly. Then louder. All hands, battle stations, we're going to stop this fleet. Chief Engineer Bobby Williams's voice came over the intercom from the engine room. Captain, all systems are ready. The quantum cloak is stable and our weapons are charged. Lisa, what's our weapon status? Morrison asked. Grant smiled grimly. All plasma lance cannons are online, sir. Quantum torpedoes are loaded with antimatter. Warheads. The aliens have never seen weapons like ours. Morrison nodded. The USS Blackstar carried the most advanced weapons humanity had ever built. The plasma lance cannons could cut through enemy shields like paper. The quantum torpedoes could destroy multiple ships with a single hit. Weapons Officer Kelly Brooks was ready at her station. She had trained for years to use these weapons, but had never fired them in real combat. Sir, targeting systems are locked on the enemy flagship. Remember, everyone, Morrison said. We have one advantage. They don't know we're here. We'll hit them hard and fast before they can react. We need to destroy as many ships as possible in the first attack. The USS Blackstar moved closer to the Vorth fleet, still invisible under its quantum cloak. The alien ships continued toward New Pittsburgh, completely unaware that death was approaching them. We're in position, sir, reported Garcia. The enemy flagship is directly ahead. Morrison took a deep breath. Everything depended on the next few minutes. Kelly, fire when ready. The USS Blackstar dropped its cloak and appeared directly behind the Vorth flagship. For a moment, the alien ships continued flying as if nothing had happened. Then Kelly Brooks opened fire. The plasma lance cannons struck 3 enemy destroyers at once. The alien ships simply vanished in balls of fire. Their shields couldn't stop the human weapons. The quantum torpedoes hit the flagship's engines, tearing huge holes in its hull. Direct hits, shouted Brooks. 3 enemy ships destroyed, flagship heavily damaged. The Vorth fleet erupted in confusion. Alarms sounded on their ships as they tried to understand what was attacking them. They had never seen weapons that could destroy their ships so easily. They're trying to surround us, reported Grant. Enemy ships are turning to engage. Morrison smiled coldly. Let them come. Show them what human engineering can do. The USS Blackstar spun through space like a deadly dancer. Its advanced engines allowed it to move faster and turn quicker than any Vorth ship. The alien weapons were powerful but slow. They couldn't hit a target that moved like the Blackstar. Dr. Sam Carter worked in the medical bay, treating crew members who were injured when the ship took hits from enemy fire. The Vorth weapons were primitive compared to human technology, but there were many of them. Hull breach on Deck 7, reported damage control. We're losing atmosphere. Seal it off, ordered Morrison. Bobby, can you give us more power to weapons? Williams' voice came back immediately. Already on it, Captain. I'm routing power from life support. We'll either win this fight in the next few minutes or we won't need life support anyway. The battle raged through space. The USS Blackstar destroyed ship after ship while dodging return fire. The Vorth had never fought an enemy like this. Their rigid military tactics were useless against human creativity and adaptability. Enemy flagship is trying to escape, reported Brooks. Don't let it get away, Morrison ordered. Fire everything we have. The USS Blackstar's remaining quantum torpedoes struck the alien flagship. The massive ship broke apart in a brilliant explosion that lit up the darkness of space. All enemy ships destroyed, sir, announced Grant. We got them all. Morrison looked at the tactical display. Where once there had been 57 enemy ships, now there was only floating debris. Not one Vorth vessel had escaped to warn their command about human capabilities. Casualties? Morrison asked. Dr. Carter's voice came over the intercom. 12 wounded, no deaths, sir. We were lucky. Morrison nodded. They had been lucky, but they had also been better. Human technology, human tactics, and human determination had won the day. Danny, any transmissions from the enemy? Clark shook his head. Nothing, sir. We jammed their communications before they could send any warnings. As far as the Vorth know, this fleet just disappeared. Morrison looked at his crew. They had just won humanity's first victory against the Vorth, but he knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere out there, more alien fleets were planning attacks on human colonies. Set course for the nearest Vorth transmission source, Morrison ordered. We're going to find their base and finish this war before it really starts. The USS Blackstar turned away from the debris field and headed deeper into enemy space. Behind them, the wreckage of the Vorth fleet drifted silently. 2 million people on New Pittsburgh would never know how close they had come to death. or that a single human ship had saved their lives. The war had begun, and humanity had drawn first blood. Back on Earth, Admiral Kate Murphy stood in the command center watching the reports come in. The attack on New Denver had shocked everyone. An entire human colony wiped out by unknown aliens, but there was no word from the USS Blackstar. Any contact from Captain Morrison? Murphy asked her aide. No, ma'am. The Blackstar went dark after investigating the New Denver attack. We have to assume they were destroyed. Murphy nodded grimly. The USS Blackstar was humanity's most advanced ship, but even it couldn't survive against an entire alien fleet. She began ordering Earth's defense forces to prepare for war. Meanwhile, the USS Blackstar was deep in enemy space, following intercepted Vorth communications. Captain Jake Morrison had decided not to contact Earth. Every minute spent sending messages was time the aliens could use to attack more colonies. Captain, I've found something big, said Intelligence Officer Amy Rodriguez. She had been working for hours to decode the alien transmissions. The Vorth have a major base in the Wolf 359b system. According to these messages, it's their forward command post for attacking human space. Morrison leaned over her station. How big? Over 300 ships, sir, plus construction facilities building more vessels. They're planning a massive invasion of Earth within the next month. The bridge crew exchanged worried looks. 300 ships was more than Earth's entire defense fleet. If the Vorth launched their invasion, humanity would be wiped out. Navigator Tony Garcia studied his star charts. Sir, Wolf 359b is 12 light-years from here. We can reach it in about 6 days if we travel through the Helix Nebula. That's dangerous space, warned Chief Engineer Bobby Williams over the intercom. The nebula has radiation storms that could damage our systems. The radiation will also hide us from enemy sensors, Morrison replied. Plot a course through the nebula, Tony. We're going to take a look at this base. Science Officer Dr. Helen White had been studying the intercepted Vorth data. She was a quiet woman who specialized in alien technology. Captain, I've found something interesting in their files. The Vorth have been studying human technology from the colonies they destroyed. They're trying to understand how we achieved faster-than-light travel. Why would that interest them? Asked Morrison. Because they only mastered FTL travel 50 years ago, sir. Humans have had it for over 2 centuries. They see us as primitive but somehow technologically advanced. It confuses and threatens them. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant looked up from her tactical station. So they want to destroy us before we become more advanced? Exactly, said Dr. White. They view humans as an inferior species that somehow got lucky with technology. They think if they kill us now, they won't have to face us as equals later. Morrison felt anger building in his chest. The Vorth weren't just trying to conquer humanity. They were trying to commit genocide because they were afraid of human potential. 6 days later, the USS Blackstar emerged from the Helix Nebula near the Wolf 359b system. What they found was worse than they had imagined. The Vorth base was enormous, with hundreds of warships docked around a massive construction facility. New ships were being built every day. My God, whispered communications specialist Danny Clark. There are over 400 ships now. They're building them faster than we thought. Amy, what are you picking up from their communications? Morrison asked. Rodriguez worked quickly at her station. They're planning to attack Earth in 3 weeks, sir. They want to hit our homeworld before we can build more ships like the Blackstar. They know we destroyed their fleet at New Pittsburgh. How? Do they know that? Morrison asked sharply. They found the debris field, sir. They can tell that human weapons destroyed their ships. Now they're afraid that Earth has more vessels like ours. Morrison studied the tactical display showing the massive Vorth base. Even the USS Blackstar couldn't fight 400 enemy ships and win. But if this fleet reached Earth, humanity would be extinct within days. Captain, said Dr. White, I've been studying the system. The star here is a red giant that's already unstable. If we could cause it to go supernova, it would destroy everything in the system, including us, pointed out Chief Williams. Maybe not, White continued. If we could plant quantum charges on the star's surface and then get far enough away before they exploded, we might survive the initial blast wave. Morrison looked around at his crew. They were talking about flying into the middle of the largest enemy fleet in the galaxy, getting close enough to their sun to plant explosives, and then trying to escape before the star exploded. It was suicide. "What are our chances of success?" Morrison asked. "Honestly, sir? Maybe 10%, replied Dr. White. "But if we don't try, Earth will be attacked in 3 weeks. Our families, our friends, everyone we've ever known will be dead." Morrison thought about his wife Sarah back on Earth. She was a teacher who worked with children every day. She believed in the future of humanity. If the Vorth reached Earth, she would die along with billions of others. "All hands. This is the captain," Morrison announced over the ship's intercom. "I'm going to be honest with you. We've found the main Vorth fleet. There are over 400 enemy ships preparing to attack Earth. We can't fight them and win, but we can destroy their entire fleet along with their base." He paused, letting that sink in. "The plan will probably kill us all. But if we succeed, we'll save Earth and every human colony. I'm asking for volunteers. Anyone who wants to try to get home can take a shuttle and leave now." Morrison waited for responses. The intercom stayed silent for a long moment. Then Chief Williams's voice came through clearly. "Sir, I didn't join the Space Force to run away from fights. My family is on Earth too. Let's show these aliens what humans do when our backs are against the wall." One by one, every crew member on the USS Blackstar volunteered for the mission. They knew they would probably die, but they also knew that their sacrifice could save humanity. "All right then," Morrison said, his voice thick with pride. "Tony, plot a course to the star. We're going to end this war today." The USS Blackstar began, moving toward the Vorth base, its quantum cloak hiding it from enemy sensors. In a few hours, they would either save humanity or die trying. Every person on the ship understood that this was the most important mission in human history. Behind them, the massive Vorth fleet continued preparing for their attack on Earth, completely unaware that death was approaching from the darkness of space. The USS Blackstar moved slowly toward the Vorth base, hidden by its quantum cloak. Captain Jake Morrison watched the tactical display as hundreds of enemy ships grew larger on the screen. His crew was about to attempt the most dangerous mission in human history. "Captain, I'm picking up a Vorth transport heading toward the outer edge of their fleet," reported Navigator Tony Garcia. "If we can match its signature, we might be able to get closer without being detected." "Do it," Morrison ordered. "Amy, scan that transport and copy its identification codes." Intelligence Officer Amy Rodriguez worked quickly at her station. "Got it, sir. I'm programming our systems to broadcast the same signals as that transport." Ship. The USS Blackstar changed course to follow the alien transport. To enemy sensors, it would look like just another supply ship bringing resources to the fleet. The plan was working perfectly until they got close to the inner defenses. Down in the engineering section, Chief Engineer Bobby Williams and his team were working frantically to modify their quantum torpedoes. They needed to turn the weapons into stellar charges that could destabilize the red giant star. "Careful with that antimatter," Williams warned his assistant. "One mistake and we'll blow ourselves up before we reach the star." The work was dangerous. They were handling barely contained antimatter while the ship flew through enemy space. One small error could vaporize the USS Blackstar and everyone on it. "How much longer do you need?" Morrison asked over the intercom. 20 minutes, sir," Williams replied. "Maybe less if we're lucky." The USS Blackstar continued its approach, still disguised as a Vorth transport. They were now deep inside the enemy fleet, surrounded by alien warships that could destroy them in seconds if they were discovered. "Captain, we have a problem," said communications specialist Danny Clark. His voice was tense with worry. "The Vorth are scanning all incoming transports. They're checking for human biosignatures." Morrison felt his stomach drop. If the aliens detected human life signs aboard their fake transport, the mission would be over. "How long before they scan us?" 2 minutes, sir." Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant looked up from her tactical station. "Sir, we could drop the cloak and fight our way to the star. We might make it." Morrison shook his head. "Not through 400 ships. We need another option." Science Officer Dr. Helen White had an idea. Captain, what if we eject some of our cargo containers? The Vorth will scan them instead of us. It might buy us enough time to reach the star. Do it, Morrison ordered. Tony, increase speed toward the star. We're running out of time. The USS Blackstar ejected several cargo containers filled with supplies. The Vorth scanners immediately focused on the floating containers, giving the human ship precious extra minutes to escape detection. But their luck ran out when they were halfway to the star. A Vorth patrol ship got too close and detected human biosignatures through their cloak. Alarms began sounding throughout the enemy fleet. "They've found us," shouted Clark. "The entire fleet is turning toward our position." Morrison made a quick decision. "Drop the cloak. All power to engines. We're making a run for the star." The USS Blackstar appeared on every Vorth sensor screen as it raced toward the red giant. Hundreds of enemy ships began converging on their position, firing plasma cannons and launching missiles. Weapons Officer Kelly Brooks returned fire, destroying several Vorth fighters that got too close, but there were too many enemies. The ship shook as alien weapons struck their shields. "Hull breach on Deck 5, reported damage control. We're losing atmosphere." Dr. Sam Carter rushed to help injured crew members. Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker had been thrown against a bulkhead when a Vorth missile exploded near the ship. He was unconscious and bleeding badly. "Get him to the medical bay," Carter ordered. She refused to leave Parker behind, even though staying to help him put her own life at risk. This was the difference between humans and Vorth. Humans never abandoned their crew members. The alien commanders were confused by this behavior. They viewed their own soldiers as expendable and couldn't understand why humans would risk their mission to save one injured person. "Stellar charges are ready," announced Williams over the intercom. "We can deploy them as soon as we reach the star." The USS Blackstar was now racing through space with the entire Vorth fleet chasing them. Plasma fire lit up the darkness as hundreds of alien ships tried to stop the lone human vessel. "Sir, we're taking heavy damage," reported Grant. "Shields are down to 30%. Morrison gripped his command chair as the ship shook from enemy fire. They were almost to the star, but more Vorth ships were arriving from deeper in their territory. The tactical display showed over 1,000 enemy vessels surrounding them. "There!" shouted Garcia. "The star's surface is in range." "Deploy the charges," Morrison ordered. The USS Blackstar launched its modified quantum torpedoes directly into the red giant's surface. The stellar charges disappeared into the burning gas, beginning their work of destabilizing the star's core. "Charges deployed successfully," reported Williams. "But sir, we've got company. A lot of company." Morrison looked at the tactical display, and his heart sank. Over 1,000 Vorth ships now surrounded them, with more arriving every minute. The alien fleet had finally realized what the humans were trying to do. "Sir, the Vorth are transmitting to their home territory," reported Clark. "They're trying to warn their command about what we've done." "Jam their signals," Morrison ordered. "Don't let any messages get through." The USS Blackstar's communication jammers worked overtime, blocking the alien transmissions. But Morrison knew they couldn't keep it up forever. Soon, the Vorth would find a way to warn their government about the human threat. "How long until the star becomes unstable?" Morrison asked Dr. White. 15 minutes, sir, maybe less." Morrison looked around the bridge at his crew. They had done the impossible. They had penetrated the largest enemy fleet in the galaxy and planted charges that would destroy it. But now they were trapped with no way to escape. "Sir, should we try to fight our way out?" asked Grant. Morrison studied the tactical display. 1,000 enemy ships blocked every escape route. The USS Blackstar was alone, surrounded, and running out of time. "No," Morrison said quietly. "We stay and make sure the job gets done. If any of these ships escape, they'll warn the Vorth about what humans can do. We need to make sure none of them survive." Behind them, the red giant star began to show signs of instability. The stellar charges were working, turning the star into a weapon that would destroy everything in the system. The USS Blackstar prepared for its final battle, surrounded by enemies but determined to complete their mission. They had come too far to fail now. The red giant star behind the USS Blackstar was beginning to shake apart. Captain Jake Morrison could see the readings on his screen showing the star's core becoming more unstable every second. The stellar charges were working, but time was running. "Out for everyone in the system. All power to engines," Morrison shouted over the noise of enemy weapons hitting their ship. "We need to get out of here before that star explodes." Chief Engineer Bobby Williams pushed the ship's engines beyond their safety limits. Power flowed from life support, artificial gravity, and even the lights to give them maximum speed. The crew could barely breathe as they endured crushing acceleration. "Sir, the Vorth are trying to escape too," reported Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant. "Their rear ships are already turning away from the star." Morrison looked at the tactical display. Some of the alien ships had realized what was happening and were trying to flee the system. If any of them escaped, they would warn the Vorth government that humans could destroy entire solar systems. "Don't let them get away," Morrison ordered. "Kelly, target any ship trying to leave the system." Weapons Officer Kelly Brooks fired the USS Blackstar's remaining weapons at the fleeing Vorth vessels. Even while running for their own lives, the human crew was determined to complete their mission. Communications specialist Danny Clark was working frantically at his station. "Sir, the Vorth commanders are broadcasting panic messages. They're trying to warn their homeworlds, but our jammers are still blocking most of their signals." "Keep jamming them," Morrison said. "We can't let word of this reach Vorth space." The USS Blackstar raced toward the edge of the system, while enemy ships fired at them from all directions. The ship's shields were almost gone, and hull breaches were reported on every deck. But they kept flying, powered by human determination and superior engineering. Navigator Tony Garcia plotted the safest course through the enemy fleet. "Sir, I'm reading massive energy buildup from the star. It's going to blow any minute." Behind them, the red giant was growing brighter and more unstable. The stellar charges had done their work perfectly. The star was about to become a supernova that would destroy everything within 50 light years. Dr. Sam Carter worked in the medical bay, treating crew members injured in the battle. The ship was shaking so hard that it was difficult to help the wounded, but she refused to give up on anyone. Science Officer Dr. Helen White monitored the star's collapse from her station. "Captain, we have maybe 3 minutes before the supernova wave reaches us. The Vorth ships closer to the star are already being destroyed by the radiation." Morrison could see it happening on the screen. Alien vessels near the star were simply vaporizing as the red giant released massive amounts of deadly energy. The Vorth had never seen anything like this. They didn't understand that humans would destroy an entire solar system to stop their enemies. "Sir, enemy transmission getting through," Clark reported. "One of their ships is sending a message toward Vorth space." "Which ship?" Morrison demanded. Clark pointed to a spot on the tactical display. "That cruiser, sir. It's at the edge of our jamming range." "Kelly, destroy that ship," Morrison ordered. Brooks targeted the enemy cruiser and fired their last quantum torpedo. The alien ship exploded in a ball of fire, its warning message cut off before it could reach Vorth territory. Intelligence Officer Amy Rodriguez was monitoring all enemy communications. "Sir, I'm not detecting any successful transmissions. The Vorth Command doesn't know what happened here." The USS Blackstar reached the edge of the star's gravity well, just as the red giant reached critical mass. The star's surface erupted in a brilliant flash that could be seen from neighboring systems. "Supernova," shouted Dr. White. "The wave front is expanding toward us." Morrison gripped his command chair as the ship flew faster than it had ever gone before. Behind them, a wall of superheated gas and radiation was chasing them at nearly the speed of light. If it caught them, they would be vaporized instantly. The blast wave hit the Vorth fleet first. Hundreds of alien ships disappeared in seconds, turned to atomic particles by the expanding supernova. The massive enemy base was torn apart and scattered across space. The construction facilities that had been building ships to attack Earth were completely destroyed. "Hull temperature rising," reported Williams. "The wave is catching up to us." The USS Blackstar's rear sensors went dark as the supernova's radiation fried them. The ship's hull began to glow from the intense heat, but the human engineering held together. Where alien ships had failed, human technology endured. "We're clear," announced Garcia as they finally outran the expanding wave. "The supernova missed us by less than 1,000 kilometers." Morrison looked back at the tactical display. Where once there had been over 1,000 enemy ships and a massive military base, there was now only an expanding cloud of gas and debris. The entire Vorth invasion fleet had been completely destroyed. "Casualty report," Morrison requested. Dr. Carter's voice came over the intercom. 37 injured. No deaths, sir. We were incredibly lucky." Morrison nodded. They had been lucky, but they had also been better than their enemies. Human technology, tactics, and courage had won the day. "Danny, any enemy ships detected?" Clark checked his instruments carefully. "None, sir. Every Vorth vessel in the system was destroyed. No one escaped to warn their government." Morrison smiled for the first time in days. They had done it. The USS Blackstar had eliminated the entire enemy fleet and prevented the invasion of Earth. Billions of humans would live because of what they had accomplished. "Set course for Earth," Morrison ordered. "It's time to go home." The USS Blackstar turned toward human space, its hull scarred but intact. Behind them, the supernova continued to expand, erasing all evidence of the Vorth fleet that had planned to destroy humanity. When they finally reached Earth 3 weeks later, the USS Blackstar was welcomed as the ship that saved human civilization. Admiral Kate Murphy personally decorated every crew member for their heroism. But the most important result came later. Word of the mysterious disappearance of the Vorth fleet spread through alien space. Other species that had been planning attacks on human colonies suddenly changed their minds. Rumors spread that humans could make stars explode and destroy entire fleets without warning. The USS Blackstar's legend grew with each telling. Soon, alien civilizations across the galaxy knew that humanity was not to be underestimated. The ship that had entered the war alone had not only saved Earth but had established humans as a force to be feared throughout the galaxy. Captain Morrison's final report to Earth Command was simple. Mission accomplished. The USS Blackstar entered the war, and no foe lived to tell the tale.